Okay, now let's study the lateral view of the skull. Now you see the skull on the lateral side. You can see different bone: frontal, parietal, temporal, sphenoid, occipital, zygomatic, mandible, and others. And you can see in the center of temporal bone there is a pore opening. This one is external acoustic pore in the center of your ear. Second one, you can see mastoid precise is the inferior part of your temporal bone, and you can touch it on your surface. Third one is zygomatic arch. It belongs to the temporal bone. Go forward, connect with zygomatic bone. And if you have a glass, the leg of the glass will hang on the arch. Okay. The fourth one is temporal fossa. Here, temporal fossa is on the surface of temporal bone and part of sphenoid bone. There is a fossa. But if you touch the lateral surface of your head and above the zygomatic arch, you can't touch. There is a very big fossa. Why? What's the reason? The bone on the surface, there is a very big area fossa, but you can't touch on your surface because there is a very big and thick muscle covered on it. The muscle's name is temporal muscle. Okay, so you can't touch this fossa. And there is a very important structure you must master. Tearing. The P, no pronunciation. Tearing. You should know what's the tearing is a very important concept. First, you should know the location. Now you see, it's an H shape. You know it's H shape area. Where the H shape, now you see here, from here to here, from here to here, and transverse line. Okay, this is the H shape area, and it's the boundaries of the different bone: frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone, sphenoid bone, and the suture between them. The suture will form the H-shaped area. And what's the significance of the H-shaped area? Okay, this bone and this area is very, very thin. The bone is very thin. So, in our life, it's very easily broken if there are very power hit on this area. The bone is very easily broken. And if the bone is broken, what will happen? You know, there is artery in the deep of the area. What artery? Middle meningeal artery in it. Here, you see, there is artery in the middle of it. If the bone is broken, this artery will be broken. And what's the function of this artery? This artery is the important artery to supply your brain. So, if this artery is broken, it's very dangerous for your brain. So, the patient will, if somebody here is broken, the artery is broken, perhaps the person will be shocked or be die. So, it's very, very important. After fracture of this bone, bleeding, we name it hematoma, is all violent hit on it will happen to bleeding. The bleeding in brain is very, very dangerous. Okay, so here you must pay more attention on it. H shape is tearing area. Okay, now let's see about the anterior view of the skull. Now, first, let's see anterior view of the skull. From the anterior view, you can see what structures. What's this? Orbital. What's this? Nasal. Nasal septum, nasal cavity. And here is mouth. So, anterior view, you can see the bony the face, the facial framework of the skull. Now let's study them one by one. First, let's see about orbital. This one is right orbital. Here is the nose. On the superior border, you can see there is a supraorbital notch and inferior orbital foramen. This one is a notch. This one is foramen. Now you should know the difference of the notch, foramen. Somebody is notch, somebody is foramen. On the superior part or the inferior part, all the people is foramen. And the nerve and the artery or vein or nerve go out from them. Here, optic canal. Just now we see on the base of skull, optic canal in here. Optic nerve go out from here to your eye. Here, on the lateral and superior wall, here is the fossa for lacrimal gland. Lacrimal gland can form the tears. Here is the fossa for lacrimal sac. You see here is the gland, here is the sac. Gland can produce tears. Sac only reserve or store the tears. Here, inferior orbital fissure. Here, inferior orbital suckers. Here, superior orbital fissure. You see, superior fissure, inferior fissure is like English letter V and open to laterally. And there are different nerve and artery vein go out. Here the superior orbital artery vein and nerve. Here the inferior orbital artery vein and nerve. Okay. Now let's see about the nasal cavity. The nasal cavity. The nasal cavity is a very, very complicated part because our nose is very, very complicated. You know, the nose is like our room, has a roof, has a floor, has two lateral wall, has two medial wall, and have many openings. Okay, let's see them one by one. First is about the roof. Here is the roof, or the top. Okay. Now let's see what bones from the roof. What's this? Nasal bone. What's this? Frontal bone. What's this? Horizontal plate of ethmoid bone. Yeah. Okay, this structure will form the roof. Okay. Now let's see sphenoid bone. Where is the sphenoid bone? Here is sphenoid bone. Okay, part of it. The floor. Here is the floor. Include maxillar. Where? This one, maxillar. And here is the palatine precise of it. And this one, palatine bone. And this one with horizontal plate of it. The two bones will form the floor. You know the floor of the nasal cavity is the roof of the oral cavity. Here, oral, here, nasal. Okay. Now let's see the medial wall of the nasal cavity. The medial wall is here. There is the middle septum of nasal cavity. This one is the middle septum. Okay, and it's formed by two bones. This bone, here, this one. This one is the vertical plate or perpendicular plate of ethmoid bone. Perhaps you have forgot. Now let's see it again. Can you see it? Now let's see. Here. This one.
Perpendicular plate of the ethmoid.
Yes. Perpendicular plate of ethmoid bone. Okay, here it is a vertical plate. and behind of it is vomer. Where is vomer? Here. Here is the vomer. Yes. Now I hide the maxilla. You see it again. Perpendicular plate and vomer is inferior in the conquer. Hide it. Okay, this one is the vomer. You see? Hide it also. Okay, vomer. They will form the middle septum. Okay, middle septum. Now let's see them again. Here is the perpendicular plate. Here is the vomer. Here is the perpendicular plate. Here is the vomer. And what's this? In front of them, this one is nasal cartilage. Now you see here is the nasal bone. Please touch your nose. The upper portion here is the nasal bone. It's a hard bone. And the lower part, you can easily push it to left and right side because this part is cartilage, the nasal cartilage. The apex can change direction because it's cartilage. And the three structure will form the middle septum of the nasal cavity. Nasal cavity. The three. Two structure is bone. One structure is cartilage. Okay. It's the medial wall. Now let's see the lateral wall. And this is the right nasal cavity. And you see the right nasal cavities, lateral wall. On this wall, you can see there are three concha. Superior nasal concha, middle nasal concha, and inferior nasal concha. Only it is a lonely bone. And behind of them, there are three meaters. Superior nasal meaters, middle nasal meaters, and inferior meaters. Okay, the three conchas under them is the three meaters. Okay. Now I will introduce about the centers. Because all these centers they are around nasal cavity, so the name is pyro nasal centers. Means beside of nasal cavity, there are four different centers. First one, frontal centers here in the frontal bone and under the airbrush arch. Second one, ethmoid centers. They are in the ethmoid bone. In this picture, ethmoid bone should be here on the lateral wall. There are many big ethmoid centers in this area. All of this area is the ethmoid centers on the ethmoid labyrinth. Third one is sphenoid centers in the sphenoid bone. Fourth one, maxillar centers in the maxillar. Okay, should be here in the maxillar. Okay, it's about four centers. Now let's see them on other view. This one is coronary section. Coronary section. Now you see here there are many small centers. Okay, all of them belong to the ethmoid centers. And this one is the horizontal section. All of them ethmoid centers. Anterior, middle, and posterior. A different part. There are many ethmoid centers. And here is the sphenoid centers in the sphenoid body. Okay. And here maxillary centers in the maxillar. Okay, left and right. And somebody will ask me, what's the function of the centers? There are so many centers in the skull. Why? First, you should know the centers is a hollow cavity. In the skull, in the bone, there are many hollow centers in it. Can reduce the weight of our height, so we can move easily, freely, because our height is not very high, not very heavy. If the height is very heavy, you can't move. So in our height, there are many centers. Okay? And the centers, because they are communicated with our nasal cavity, so will help us to pronounce. Okay? And in another one is if there is some inflammation, will form some inflammation fluid. The fluid first will fill in the centers, can't press on the brain. Okay. Okay, here is about all opening of the opening. You see here is 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 different centers from the maxillary, ethmoid, and sphenoid. And here is all the opening of the all the opening. You see, the most opening is middle, nasal meatus. Only 2 is different. The posterior group of ethmoid centers open to superior nasal meatus. Sphenoid centers open to sphenoid, ethmoid, recess. All the others to here. This one is important, most to the middle. Now you see here, for example, here is frontal centers. There is a canal communicate to the middle meatus. Here is the middle meatus. And the maxillary centers also to the middle meatus. And anterior and the middle group of the ethmoid centers also to the middle meatus. So most of them to the middle meatus. And only here is the superior meatus, only the posterior group of the ethmoid center to here. And there's another one is sphenoethmoid recess. Between the sphenoid bone and ethmoid bone, there is a recess. I change another color. This color. There is a recess here. Okay. And here is the sphenoid centers go out to here, open to here. Okay, it's a difference. Most is the middle, one superior, one recess. Okay. Okay, that's have right.